Hey, 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 hey. Do you know what today is? Today is Christmas Eve Eve. I'm even getting into the holiday spirit. I've got where's my finger going? Right here. I've got my little Christmas ornament tree, my pre-lit little tree from Balsam Hill. This is not an advertisement, but I just want to point that out. And then my little Christmas, I'll just call him a skinny Santa. And then over here, wait, okay, I've got my fabulous green lighting. Oh, I got to turn on that one light. I see. And then right here, that's my red lava lamp. I'm sporting the colors, huh? Let me turn this on here. So hold on here. Get some effects. Now we're talking, huh? Hey, how's it going today? Today, tonight? What was that? Was that today? Christmas Eve is good, huh? Time just flies, doesn't it, when we're having fun? Time is just zipping by. Ironically, today's subject, time. Time while we're grieving. That's right, I'm starting a whole new series. Next series of videos are going to be about addressing grief. It's where I've been since June. It's where I'm journeying through. And I'm just going to pass along some nice little tidbits for those that are dealing with grief. Let's get one thing straight, though. Grief could be anything. It doesn't have to be a loss of a loved one, which is my case. But time spent in grief could be over anything: a loss of a career, a loss of a relationship, um, anything, a loss of a pet. Let's not forget, they're like family members. They should be. If they're not, I will refrain from what I think. But I think our little four-legged furry friends, I think of them as kids. Not so much to put them in clothing, but I have. Anyway, time in grief. So what's appropriate? What happens when somebody that you care about all of a sudden comes to you, who's in the grief process, basically says, not in a really mean way, but it's kind of like, you're still feeling this way? I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on your timeline. I'm sorry. I didn't know that you know how long this is supposed to last. Truth of the matter is what I'm learning is my dad's been gone for 4 years now. My mom just passed in June. I know I keep repeating that, but not everybody sees all my videos, so I'm just going to bring everybody up to date. It feels like I lost my dad yesterday. It feels like I lost my dad when I lost my mom. Why? Well, mainly because when I was caring for my dad over the years, um, namely, he became a really intense part of my life. 2016, then I started taking care of my mom about 2014, and I toggled back and forth between the two of them. But when my dad passed in 2020, you guys getting all these dates right? There's going to be a test later. No. um, my mom passed away in June this year. So 4 years later, right? I wasn't able to grieve my dad properly. When he passed 2 months later, my mom had an incident that required me to live with her. She had dementia. It wasn't that bad. But when she had a head trauma at her home, we realized it was more intense. The news of my dad passing didn't help matters. It kind of stimulated her dementia activity to be even more. I can't even begin to tell you what it was like, but I needed to move in with her. That being said, I've been constantly busy dealing with her and dealing with everything for 3.5 years that when my mom passed, I didn't know this would happen, but it's like my exhale of relief. I know that sounds terrible. I miss my mom. I miss my dad. But let me tell you, when you're busy and you don't deal with stuff, I want to say something else. But if you don't deal with things, it does not go away. It stays with you. And when it stays with you, it's basically put on a back burner. It's held off, waiting, just waiting. Come on, let me out. No, I'm not ready to deal with you yet. Okay, but I'm right here, revving up my motor. Then when my mom passed, that thing was like, okay, here I come. Because I was just like, I don't have to care for my mom. I don't have to care for my dad. And all of a sudden, everything just came swarming at me. And when it came swarming at me, I felt the energy of my dad's passing and the energy of my mom just leaving. And it all came together. And now I feel like I'm grieving both of them at the same time. I hope that makes sense. But that's what I've been feeling. There is no appropriate time. If someone were to say to me, your dad passed 4 years ago, I can't believe you're still talking about that. You know what? Number one, it's my deal. I'm sure my sister's going through her deal. Not one individual is the same. We're all unique in our process. I even think that Deborah's going through something. She spent so much time with my dad, so much time with my mom. She's not biologically linked to us, but you know what? You spend enough time, you spend so many decades with people. It does, it affects you. There is no timeline for grief. And you just have to allow things to happen. Megan Devine, she wrote, "It's okay to not be okay." I think that's what, yeah. It's okay that you're not okay. She talks about this as a grief counselor. The crazy thing is that she had to go through it herself. Let's take a look and find out what she has to say about time and grief.
When a big loss enters your life, when somebody really important to you dies or something really big changes in your life, time actually does stop for you. Time gets weird. It moves faster, it moves slower. Like, how is it possible that this is still the same day? Like, time gets wonkified in grief. Look, the reality is that other people are going to move on. That doesn't mean that you have to. That doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It just means you live in different time streams. We always live in different time streams from each other, but grief really makes that living in different worlds a lot more clear. So other people are going to move on. Other people are going to be like, that happened 6 months ago. Are you still upset about that? That's going to happen. We can't avoid that just by the temporal nature of life. So let's talk about what you do about it. One, recognize that everybody really is living in a different world. We all have our own world bubbles and time bubbles that we're walking around in. No one person's timeline is more correct than the other. That there is dissonance, that there is static between one person's haven't you moved on by now versus your this just happened. It's not worth it to argue whose timeline is more correct. That's not gonna be efficient. So what are you gonna do about it? One, recognize that it happens. Two, if you're getting sort of judgment from the outside, that happened a whole year ago, aren't you over it by now? It's time for you to move on. It's been a long time. You can say things like, thanks for your opinion, have a nice day, like out of here. You can also say, I know it feels like a long time for you, but for me, this just happened. It's okay to say, hey, our timelines are different. I would appreciate you not applying your time sense to me. Basically,
zip it. That's the part that was cut out. You know what? There's a place and a time, but sometimes other people just need to zip it. Oh man, time's ticking. Things keep moving. You may not move at that pace. Maybe you did, but that was probably before all this stuff happened. I know during the process during anticipatory grief where you're anticipating this to happen, that's a whole separate bear of grief, but it is very, very real. You feel like you're in molasses. You can't move. And everybody's going, and you're just like, I'm trying to keep up, man. Trying to keep up. It's crazy, but it's real. It is true. Time is elastic. People don't think about it, but time is a real thing. People act weird when you're in grief. People keep their distance because they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to be around you. Nobody likes to be around a grieving person. It can be depressing to be in it, to see it, or you're just at a loss of what to do with that person. And you could be thick as thieves. You could be totally close and feel alone. But I heard something today. Are we really alone? Probably not. But you just feel, as the griever, that no one has you. Think about that. Let's hear what Megan has to say about time.
Way. The other thing is to recognize or realize for yourself that time is always elastic. Maybe you've had this experience before grief, but like you're having a really great time and the day seems to stretch out for much longer. Or an even better example that many of us can relate to is like summers felt really long when you were a kid, and now that you're a grown-up, like summers are over in a second. Time is always going to be elastic. You will always be moving in and out of relationship with how long it feels since your person died. It's always going to feel like that. Grief is not a linear, time-bound experience. It does not have a clear middle, beginning, and end. See, it so much doesn't have a clear timeline that I forgot that the beginning comes first. It's just not like that. So there is no timeline for grief. There is no point that it's going to be over. Your relationship to time, sort of getting closer to what the outside world thinks, how much time has elapsed, how much the world has moved on, all of that stuff, that distance between your sense of time and the outside world's sense of time, they will eventually get closer together. But for a while, that difference is going to be really clear and kind of bumpy. So I want you to know that it's normal. I want you to not have to defend your time reality to other people if you don't have to, and advocate for yourself. It is okay to say to other people, your sense of time is very different than my sense of time, and I need you to respect that.
It's not easy. Speaking of time, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this subject, but I think it should be known that this is real. Time waits for no one, right? There is no timeline. The funny thing is, you might think you're wasting time or you're doing something. You could be sitting in a rocking chair, just rocking back and forth, wasting time. You might be feeling like you're doing something because you're just rocking back and forth, but you're not going anywhere, right? Let's check out what Megan has to say about her own personal experience. As I mentioned before, she lost her loved one suddenly, very, very sudden. And it took a while to get over it. This is what she experienced.
Last thing I want to say about the nature of time and moving on and how long it's been. One of the most helpful things that somebody said to me in my own loss, I remember being at like 3 months and feeling like it had been forever since I had seen him. And I have to live this for the rest of this life. Are you kidding me? And I already felt like I was failing the move on test, that it's been such a long time now, sort of those two dueling things of it was just a second ago that he was here, but it's also been an eternity since I've seen him. And I remember what my friend said to me was, with a loss of this magnitude, just happened can be 8 minutes ago or 80 years ago. It's all the same thing. That helped me so much. It helped me anchor myself in time and understand my relationship with time in a way that, like, yeah, this loss rocks the world in such a way that just happened can mean anything from 8 minutes to 85 years. And I want you to hear that too. With a loss of this magnitude, just happened is just as made up as time zones. Time is relative.
So I know I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but time is everything to everybody. You know, it's the one commodity that we possess that we can never get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. If you wasted it, it is wasted time. You don't get it back. That's why you make the most of what you have. It's a commodity that we've been given. Be wise with your time. Be wise with your time as you're being blessed. Recognize that you're blessed. Love those that are around you. Take time to say, I love you, while you have the time. In the meantime, be blessed. And remember to always be good to yourself. I'll see you in the next part of the series. Take care.